7 bone-chilling true trespassing horror stories that haunt you at 3 a.m. forever. It was a night like no other. The moon hung low, casting eerie shadows that danced along the cracked pavement of forgotten streets. The air was thick with anticipation, a feeling deep in your gut, impossible to shake. What might happen when the clock struck 3? Too many whispered tales had filled the night with dread. Stories passed around campfires about the terrors lurking in the shadows, the trespassers who didn't just invade homes but shattered lives. From hidden corners of small towns to abandoned buildings echoing with past horrors, the stories spun like spider webs, catching the hearts of all who dared listen. There was the tale of the old Miller house, notoriously known as the site of bizarre occurrences. It stood empty for years, blanketed in darkness. Lights flickered in the windows, but the town swore no one had lived there for ages. At midnight, if you listened closely, you could hear the sounds of a party, laughter, music, clinking glasses, yet no living soul was ever there. Those brave enough to sneak onto the property at 3 a.m. returned with wild eyes, claiming to have caught a glimpse of ghostly figures, their faces twisted in eternal sorrow. Then there was young Lucy, a girl known for her penchant for adventure. She once stumbled into the woods behind her home, chasing the whispers of the wind. They led her to an old cabin, half buried in the underbrush. Stepping inside, she felt a chill crawl up her spine. The air smelled stale, and the walls seemed to close in, filled with unsettling secrets. What she found in that cabin sent her running, an ancient diary with pages stained by something dark and mysterious, lines detailing frantic scribbles about being watched, hunted, and don't even get me started on the tales from Darnell Bridge. Local teens dared each other to cross it at midnight, but stories spread like wildfire about those who hadn't returned. Some said they were dragged into the depths of the river by unseen hands, others claimed to hear their whispers in the wind long after they'd vanished, begging for help. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Every haunted house has its tale, but the strangest was whispered among the old town folk, a mystery that remained unsolved. How a man, walking home late one night, simply vanished, leaving nothing but his footprints leading into the darkness. The last anyone heard from him was a horrified scream that echoed through the neighborhood. Were his steps swallowed by the shadows? Or did he tumble headfirst into another realm? No answers ever surfaced, just the cold chill of uncertainty settling on those who remained. As the clock trudged toward 3, the tension hung thick, thick enough to cut. Curiosity intertwined with terror in the hearts of those still awake. What would happen at the witching hour? What secrets lingered, whispering just out of reach? One thing was certain: the stories were far from over, and with each tick of the clock, deeper shadows crept in and the silence grew louder. The clock struck 3. In an instant, the air shifted, the world outside holding its breath. It was a moment pulled from a nightmare, filled with the promise of darkness, and those who had dared to listen suddenly had their doubts. What if the tales weren't just stories, but warnings? They exchanged anxious glances, holding on to anything solid, their hearts pounding like a drumbeat. Just then, a deafening crack split the silence, the sound of branches snapping like bones under the weight of something unseen. The group huddled closer, chilly breaths clouding the air, each shaky exhale revealing the dread growing in their chests. Emily, one of the braver souls, whispered a challenge to the night. "I'll go check it out." Her voice quivered, but there was a spark of defiance in her eyes. Her friends muttered hesitantly. "You sure? Maybe we should just head home," but the challenge had been issued, and Emily was already moving before they could even register her words. The flashlight beam danced nervously ahead, illuminating the overgrown path as she ventured toward the sound. A rustle to her left made her jump. Her heart thudded like a wild drum, each beat echoing in her ears. The forest loomed around her, shadows pulsing with every flicker of the light. Deep breaths, Emily. Just the wind. Just the trees. But as she stepped further into the murky depths, a shadow darted between the trees, a shape too fast, too agile. It sent a shiver racing down her spine. "Hello," she called, her voice trembling. An awful stillness ensued, swallowing any remaining bravado. Then, from somewhere beyond the trees, laughter erupted, a chilling sound, high-pitched and echoing. It was unmistakable. Those voices, ghostly, distant, dripped with malice. Panic surged. Emily turned back, ready to bolt, but what she found paralyzed her in place. Two shadowy figures loomed closer, their demonic grins visible in the moonlight, reflecting an otherworldly hunger. One figure, unnatural in size, stepped forward, brushing a hand against a nearby tree. The bark split with a sickening crunch, splintering off like brittle bones. They were aware of her presence, and she could feel their gazes invading her very essence. "Help me," a voice echoed faintly, one that sent chills racing through her veins. It was familiar, coated in a layer of desperation. Was it Lucy? Her breath caught in her throat. Lucy had vanished weeks ago, just another face in the long list of the lost. As Emily backed away slowly, her feet barely making a sound on the damp earth, the shadows tightened their grip. The air thickened, each breath pulling heavier than the last. In a desperate burst of adrenaline, she spun around, sprinting down the path, branches clawing desperately at her clothes. The laughter escalated behind her, high-pitched and sinister, following her every frantic step. She burst out of the woods, colliding into her friends who had gathered, panic etched across their faces. "We need to leave now," Emily gasped, breathless and wide-eyed, but before they could move, a piercing scream echoed through the air, a sound that brought everything to a standstill. It wasn't just a scream. It was a cry for help torn from the depths of a tortured soul. And then silence. The shadows that had plagued their night began to blend into the darkness, retreating, yet leaving an eerie stillness hanging in the air. But Emily felt it, the weight of something still lingering, waiting and watching. They needed to know the truth about Lucy, about what really happened in these woods. As the group stood dazed, each feeling the gnawing urgency to uncover the mysteries of the night, Emily knew deep down that the clock was still ticking. They had only just begun to scratch the surface of the horrors that lay in wait. What they would unearth could either save them or consume them whole. What waited past the edges of the forest? And who would be the next to go missing before dawn broke? The chill in the air felt like a weight pressing on their chests. The friends exchanged nervous glances, seconds stretching into a suffocating silence. Emily's heart raced, still echoing with the memory of that desperate cry. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to steady her voice. "Did you all hear it? Someone needs help. We can't just leave." Liam, usually the anchor of their group, looked visibly shaken. "Emily, it's not safe. Whatever that was, it's dangerous," she interrupted, frustration rippling through her. "Or is it just terrifying enough to make you want to run?" The others shifted uncomfortably. They couldn't deny it. Fear threaded through the air like a noose. But Lucy deserved more than abandonment. "We need to figure out what happened. We owe it to her." With reluctance painted across their faces, the group huddled together, mingling their breath under the fading moonlight. Emily pointed back to the looming trees. "We'll check near the scream." It came from that direction. They moved as a single, trembling mass, the flashlight beam slicing through the shadows, revealing the path littered with fallen leaves and broken branches. The forest felt alive, watching, aware of how vulnerable they were. The laughter, it still rang in Emily's mind, gnawing at her resolve. As they stepped deeper into the woods, the air grew heavy with an unspeakable tension. Everything felt wrong. The trees seemed to lean closer, their twisted branches reaching out, as if to snag and pull them into the darkness. "Keep it together," whispered Mia, her voice barely a sound. A sharp crack behind them sent the group jumping, hearts leaping in unison like terrified birds. Emily spun, but saw nothing. Just trees, a suffocating silence again settling, vibrating with an unseen energy. Then, a faint whisper drifted through the air, half-formulated words that sent chills racing down Emily's spine. It was breathy, almost melodic, echoing Lucy's voice. "Help me please." Emily's legs urged her forward, propelled by instinct. She followed the sound, her friends reluctantly trailing behind. Each step felt like marching towards the inevitable. "Is that really her?" Max whispered, his face ghostly pale. "Do you think they're still out there?" Liam's eyes darted nervously, scanning the trees. "I don't know," Emily replied, her heart pounding. "But we can't leave her." Suddenly, the laughing erupted again, louder, more chaotic, intermingled with tortured shrieks. The cacophony tore through the stillness. It seemed everywhere and nowhere a macabre chorus that sent icy fingers of dread wrapping around Emily's throat. "Turn back. We need to go." Mia screamed, panic igniting in her voice. "No." Emily shouted back, desperation mixing with her resolve. "We can't. She's counting on us." But with each word, the shadows crept closer. They could feel it, the air electrified, thickening. The laughter morphed into something primal, and suddenly the trees erupted into chaos. Figures poured from the darkness, painting the night with their grotesque forms. "Run!" Emily yelled, the horror unlocking their frozen limbs. They bolted, hearts racing, as the sounds behind them crescendoed into a nightmarish roar. Branches whipped at their faces as terror propelled them forward, but Emily felt a strange pull and need to find Lucy, to face whatever lurked in the depths of the woods. As they escaped the perimeter of the trees, the wall of trees seemed to push back, almost holding them in place. They broke free onto the path, gasping for breath, but the laughter faded rather than ceased, whispering promises of fear that would follow them long after they left. "Did we leave her behind?" Mia's voice trembled, riddled with terror. "What if Lucy's still out there?" Emily felt the weight of unresolved dread crushing her chest. No answer came. As they stumbled back towards safety, one last lookout revealed a newly formed tree stump, etched with a name in the softwood: Lucy. The shadows shifted again, restless, waiting for their time. Whatever they had disturbed would not remain dormant for long. As dawn threatened to break, Emily realized that this was only the beginning. They had entered a web of horrors, and now the darkness had its claws in them, but how many more would fall before they could uncover the truth? The woods would not let go easily. The pounding in Emily's chest felt like a war drum as they sprinted down the path, breathless and wild-eyed, the forest closing behind them. The laughter was still there, dancing in the breeze, taunting and hollow, a sinister mockery that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. "Did you see them?" Max panted, his voice cracking. "What were those things?" "I don't know." Emily shot back, the desperation echoing in her tone. "We have to keep moving." Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the ground was trying to drag them back into the nightmares they just escaped. The shadows of the trees stretched and twisted, looming over them like sentinels, watching and waiting for the moment they would falter. "Mia, hold on." Liam suddenly grabbed her arm, eyes wide with panic. "Look." Ahead, the remnants of an old cabin loomed just off the path. Its windows, dark and hollow, seemed to promise shelter yet hold an ominous secret. "Should we go in?" Mia whispered, fear coating her voice. Emily felt an ache in her chest, a call for safety, maybe even solace from their horror. Yet the decision felt wrong, laden with consequences they couldn't bear to contemplate. What if it's a trap? Or what if there's a way to find Lucy? Max interjected, breath hitching as shock and hope collided. Before she could respond, the cries mingled with the laughter again, more frantic this time, spiraling into a haunting symphony that echoed through the trees. They could almost hear Lucy's name. It was like a bait in the air, pulling them back to the heart of the forest. Whispers wrapped around their legs, begging them to reconsider. The shadows deepened, and Emily made a decision. "We go in. We can't keep running forever. We might find something clues, maybe even Lucy. The others exchanged uncertain looks, but the need to push forward outweighed their fear. They crept towards the cabin, the old floorboards creaking treacherously under their feet. A gust of wind howled through the cracks, causing a chill to dance down Emily's spine. Inside, the air was stale, thick with the scent of mildew and decay. Rusted tools laid scattered across the floor, remnants of a life long abandoned. An old wood stove sat in the corner, its pipe jagged and crooked. Sunlight streamed through the missing roof sections, illuminating dust motes swirling in an ethereal dance. "Search the rooms," Emily instructed, though her voice trembled. "Look for anything that could help us. Something, anything." They split up, the silence of the cabin swallowing them whole. Emily moved deeper into the darkness, her flashlight beam darting wildly, revealing only peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. Each footstep echoed, haunting, reminding her they weren't alone. "Emily." Liam's voice cut through the stillness, laced with urgency. "Come here. You have to see this." She rushed back to find him standing in a small bedroom, the air thick with terror. There, hung on the wall, was a faded photograph of a group of children, grinning against a backdrop of trees. But one face stood out, the girl with wild curls and bright eyes, unmistakably Lucy. A tremor shook her voice as Emily asked, "Where did you find it?" "Right here, on the dresser," Liam pointed, his eyes wide with disbelief. "But look closer." As Emily stepped forward, a shadow crossed over the photograph. A whisper echoed behind her, "Help me please." She spun around, her heart crashing against her ribs. The darkness behind her started to swirl, forming shapes that made her pulse race. "Run!" Liam cried, but the shadows lunged, ravenous and desperate. Emily felt herself pulled back as the figures dissipated, leaving them gasping for air at the threshold. But lingering, just within view, stood that same child from the photo, eyes wide and pleading. "We need to get out now." Max shouted, grabbing Emily's arm. Together, they dashed out of the cabin, but Emily's gaze lingered on the girl. "Wait, what about Lucy?" "Forget Lucy." Liam shouted, urgency fueling his voice as the laughter returned, a cacophony of twisted joy behind them. As they sprinted away, Emily felt the ghostly figure's eyes on her, burdening her with their quiet desperation. But in the chaos, one thought ricocheted through her mind: could she trust what she saw? The forest loomed ahead, vigorous and relentless, whispering secrets she struggled to grasp. What had they stumbled into, and would they ever truly escape its grasp? They couldn't shake the feeling that whatever hunted them was only just beginning. The branches clawed at them as they fled, sharp and unyielding, each step pounding the fear deeper into their chests. The laughter echoed behind them, a mockery that slithered through the shadows, growing louder, more manic. "Where do we go?" Max yelled, his voice nearly drowned out by the rustle of the trees. "Anywhere but here." Emily yelled back, her heart racing. She could still see that child's pleading eyes in her mind, a haunting image that refused to fade. They broke into a small clearing, a breath of space amid the oppressive trees. For a moment, hope flickered weakly in their eyes. The laughter fell distant, the shadows less daunting, as if they had left something behind, at least for now. "What was that?" Mia whispered, glancing over her shoulder, her breath shaky as fear danced in her gaze. "It doesn't matter," Liam snapped, trying to sound fierce, but they all felt the truth lingering just below the surface. It mattered a lot. "We need to regroup." "Where's Lucy?" "We can't just leave her." Maybe we should go back to the cabin," Emily suggested, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. It was a horrible idea. There might be something we missed. Max shook his head furiously. "Are you insane? Whatever those things were, they were right behind us." But the photo, her voice trailed off, as uncertainty clashed with desperation inside her. "Lucy was there. What if we can find something, anything?" As if on cue, a rustling noise came from the underbrush, a low growl that sent chills rippling through their bodies. They turned simultaneously, the sound freezing them in their tracks. What was that? Mia breathed, stepping closer to Max, her nails digging into his arm. Maybe it's just a deer, or something. Emily attempted to sound calm, but the tremor in her voice gave her away. Liam narrowed his eyes, scanning the tree-line, heart thudding. Whatever it is, it's not friendly. Then suddenly, the bushes parted, and from the darkness emerged a figure. It was cloaked in shadow, shrouded and indistinct, with an unsettling presence that sucked the breath from their lungs. It moved steadily toward them, its featureless face making their skin crawl. "Run!" Liam shouted, breaking the spell of horror as they bolted. The sound of cracking branches filled the air, and the laughter returned, merging with their panicked breaths, wrapping around them like a noose. As they tore past the clearing, a different sound emerged from the forest, a soft whimper, faint and pained, echoing Lucy's name. "Did you hear that?" Emily cried, halting amidst the chaos. Hope bloomed unbidden, but dread surged with it like a tidal wave. "That's Lucy. Don't stop!" Max yelled, pulling her along, but her feet felt glued, her heart pulling her back toward the sound, urging her to listen again. Another cry, this time louder, desperate. The voice was unmistakable. "Help! Please help!" Without thinking, Emily tore from Max's grip, sprinting into the trees. "We have to find her!" she shouted over her shoulder, panic igniting her resolve. The others hesitated, fear and urgency warring in their expressions, but there was no stopping her now. "Emily, get back!" Liam yelled, chasing after her. But the shadows twisted, shock and awe mingling into her senses. Her breath caught as more faces surfaced from the gloom, children's faces, green eyes, wild hair, just like Lucy. They hovered behind the trees, their mouths twisted into silent screams, their outstretched hands beckoning her forth. "Please," they whispered, their voices a chorus of anguish that pierced right through the forest's gloom. "Help us!" Emily's heart raced with a mixture of dread and exhilaration. What had she stumbled into? Then she caught sight of Lucy, trapped amid the thick underbrush, eyes wide with fear, reaching toward her. "Emily!" she cried, desperate yet hopeful. But before she could answer, the shadow loomed again, more ominous than before, stretching tall as it swallowed her voice. Unseen forces pulled at her, dragging her backward, the weight of the forest threatening to consume them all. The darkness closed in, and she realized. With a heart-stopping jolt, she might not be able to reach Lucy after all. What were those things? Emily whispered to herself, fear clawing at her throat. And then came the chilling laughter, echoing through the air, a dark melody that promised they were far from safe. As she turned to run, the question froze in her mind, what if returning to the cabin was the only way to save Lucy before it was too late? The forest became her enemy, every branch and root conspiring against her. Emily stumbled, her breath shallow and panicked, as the darkness loomed ever closer, tugging at the very edges of her sanity. Lucy's cries echoed in her mind, wrapping around her heart like a vice. She had to reach her, had to break through this murky nightmare. "Stay strong, Lucy!" she shouted into the abyss, her voice a raw thread of desperation. "Emily!" Lucy's voice cracked like a whip, each syllable sending jolts of adrenaline coursing through her veins. Without thinking, Emily dashed back, plunging deeper into the shadows that threatened to swallow her whole. Leaves crunched underfoot as the laughter grew louder, a tormenting reminder that they were not alone. It wasn't just the shadows that pursued her, it was something darker, something that thrived on fear and despair. Come on," she urged herself, clutching at the rough bark of a tree while she fought to regain her footing. A glimpse of Lucy's frail figure surfaced again, the glow of her wide eyes sparkling amidst the darkness. "Help me, please." Each plea from Lucy felt like a knife, severing the ties to her own safety. On instinct, Emily plunged forward, pushing aside brush and brambles, chasing the flicker of hope through the looming dread, but then, a chilling realization hit her. Would Lucy's eyes still harbor that innocent spark, or had something worse traded places in her stead? The thought haunted her, each step heavy under the weight of that uncertainty. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from behind her. It was Mia. The sound twisted around Emily like a lasso, stealing her breath away. She turned, heart racing. Mia. The laughter erupted louder, crashing through the trees, taunting her. Max and Liam slipped into view, their faces pale, eyes wild with fear. We have to go. Now. Max shouted, pulling Mia away from the expressiveness of dread. Where's Lucy? Emily demanded, panic tightening around her chest as she strained to make sense of their frantic escape. They're coming. Liam's voice trembled with urgency. The shadows thickened, pulsating and swirling around them like a foreboding storm. No. We can't leave without her. Emily protested, the very idea felt like betrayal. Emily, listen, Max began, but Emily's resolve hardened. I'm going back for her. She declared, turning on her heel, racing toward the heart of darkness. With every stride, the whispers intensified. Help us, the children's faces twisted her insides. Who were they? What had happened to Lucy? But just then, a darkness more profound than she'd known rolled over her, choking her in its slithering grasp. Shapes danced in her peripheral vision, and shadows morphed into twisting silhouettes that seemed to leer in delight. Laughter erupted again, a cacophony of sinister glee that seeped into her very soul. Stop! She screamed, as she sprinted past the throng of phantom faces, devoid of their previous innocence. Emily stumbled again as the ground shifted beneath her. Panic rose in her throat, making it hard to breathe as she caught sight of Lucy once more, trapped in a web of vines, pleading with wide eyes. That look shattered any lingering doubts she had to free her. Just a little further, she whispered to herself, infused with fierce determination, ignoring the growing numbness creeping into her limbs. But before she could take a single step closer, the shadows lunged, claiming the space between them. You shouldn't have come back, came a voice, low and thick with malice, wrapping around her like a snake. Cold sweat dripped down Emily's spine. What was this thing? She knew then that the darkness hungered for more than just her fear. It sought to ensnare everything she loved. Lucy! She screamed, cutting through the chilling atmosphere as she lunged after the outline of her friend. But the more she fought, the deeper its grasp seemed to slip around her. Panic threatened to destabilize her, and then an unexpected thought simmered at the edge of her consciousness. What if this was a trap, designed to pull her in and keep her forever? Without hesitation, Emily reached into her pocket, pulling out her flashlight, the last shred of hope in a sea of nightmares. The beam pierced the curtain of darkness, causing the figures to recoil, shrieks echoing in anguish, yet even as the shadows shrank back, a chilling realization gripped her. This battle was just beginning. The shadows might flee, but they would return, darker than before. As she drew closer to Lucy, the laughter morphed into something deeper, more menacing. A promise filled her ears, a warning echoing through the trees, you will never leave this place. Did the forest want her to choose? Would Lucy become a part of this twisted existence as well? Emily's heart raced. Was there truly a way out from this encroaching dread, or had they all walked into a nightmare from which there was no waking? With the laughter ringing in her ears, the question loomed larger: how far would she go to save Lucy before the darkness claimed them both? The air crackled with tension as Emily swung the flashlight beam wildly, desperate for a break in the shadows. Each flicker illuminated the twisted shapes of the forest, hiding secrets only darkness could unveil. The vile laughter echoed around her, cold and mocking, drawing closer with each frantic heartbeat. Lucy! She cried, her voice trembling. The bond they shared was a fragile thread, barely holding them together in this nightmare. But she could sense Lucy just beyond the darkness, trapped and fading. Emily could almost touch that flickering hope. It spilled warmth on the edges of her soul, yet the shadows clawed at her ankles, draping tendrils of despair around her like a suffocating shroud. You shouldn't have come back. The voice slithered through the air, rich with malice, leaving an icy grip on her heart. Was this the forest itself that spoke, or something more sinister? With a surge of adrenaline, she rushed towards the sound of Lucy's cries, weaving through the hollow trees. "Hold on, I'm coming!" she shouted, each word fueled by terror. The shrieks from the shadows escalated, enveloping her senses. It was as if every tree, every root, and every whisper in the wind conspired to drag her down. Then, amid the chaos, her flashlight flickered ominously before plunging into darkness. No! Not now! Panic flared within her, but she pressed on, feeling the underbrush scrape against her legs, a pitiful reminder of her very existence. Fumbling through her pocket, trembling fingers found matches tucked within. One match against the abyss, that was all she needed. She struck it, and a feeble flame flickered to life. The light danced around her, and the shadows recoiled as she breathed through the rush of fear. Gritting her teeth, she dared venture deeper, the flame becoming her shield. "Emily!" Lucy's voice, faint yet strong enough to pierce through the overwhelming cacophony. A single thought surged through her, radiating determination: she would not let the darkness win. Pushing aside the creeping vines that tried to snag her arms, Emily caught sight of Lucy once more. Struggling within the thick, suffocating web of vines, her friend's eyes were wide with fear, glistening like stars in the night. "I see you. I'm almost there." But a sudden gale swirled around them, dousing the match and plunging her back into cold darkness. Only panic remained. The laughter escalated into a thunderous roar, echoing louder than ever, drowning out Lucy's cries. "Don't let go, Lucy!" Emily screamed, her hands scrambling through the blackness in search of anything solid to hold on to. As if responding to her fear, the ground beneath her trembled, and shadows erupted around her, writhing and vibrant as if alive. Then, from the depth of the thrashing darkness, a figure emerged. Tall and cloaked, its form flickered like a dying ember, twisting from the silhouettes of the trees. Dread coiled in Emily's stomach. Was this the creature that held Lucy captive? "You've come too far," it hissed, each word dripped in venom. Emily took a step back, her heart pounding against her ribcage. "You cannot save her if you cannot save yourself." "No. I want to let you take her," Emily shouted, summoning every ounce of courage. But it was falling short as more shadowy figures materialized behind the cloaked one. This place fed on fear, growing heavier and more menacing with each heartbeat. Emily's chance to escape was slipping away, and panic clawed at her throat. But desperation ignited a spark within her. "Lucy! I'm here!" she pleaded, her voice rising above the chaos, a desperate lifeline in the storm. And then, she saw a glimmer of reflection in Lucy's eyes that pulled everything together. A powerful surge of hope swept through Emily, igniting her spirit. She couldn't falter, not now. But as she reached out, vines snaked around her ankles, pulling her back. "Emily!" Lucy screamed, the torment in her voice severing the last tether of Emily's resolve. Would she be the next victim of the forest's hunger? Could she truly save Lucy if the darkness consumed her first? Gripping the dirt beneath her, clinging to her last ounce of strength, Emily yelled into the void, "Together! We'll face this together!" Just as the shadows drew tight around her, something within her flickered, something powerful and primal, ready for battle. But the darkness wasn't finished yet. A soft, chilling whisper slithered through the air once more, and as the shadows tightened their grip, Emily felt the answer slip just beyond her reach. Will they be bound to this nightmare forever, or will dawn ever break in this cursed forest? Emily's heart raced as the shadows tightened their grip. A primal urge surged within her, a fierce determination that fought against the encroaching darkness. "Lucy!" she screamed, feeling the weight of her own fear pushing her down. Beneath the tumultuous laughter surrounding her, Lucy's panic-stricken gaze shined like a beacon. The air turned sour, thick with dread, as the cloaked figure stepped closer. Emily could see now that its features were shadowy, indistinct, yet the malevolence it exuded was palpable. She felt the stirring of old fears, memories she thought she'd buried. "You think you can save her?" it sneered, winding its fingers through the tendrils of shadow, as if weaving a spell. You are nothing but a flickering flame, soon to be snuffed out. I am not afraid of you. Emily shouted back, turning the tide of terror into defiance. The words clung to her voice like a shroud, bolstering her resolve while the chill seeped into her bones. The shadows rippled, responding to her challenge, swaying in a menacing dance. Such foolish bravery, the figure hissed, its voice brushing against her like a cold wind. You were meant to join us to join her. Emily felt the vines twisting tighter around her ankles, drawing her closer to the ground. Lucy's cries echoed in the back of her mind, a haunting reminder of her purpose. She wouldn't let fear win. She wouldn't let Lucy slip away. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes for just a second, then snapped them open. She searched for the spark that had ignited within her just moments before. It flickered, vibrant and urging. Together. She yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos. We're stronger than whatever you are. In that instant, as the wind howled around her, she felt a surge of warmth radiate from her core, sending ripples of light through the choking darkness. The shadows hissed and recoiled, as if venomously hurt by her defiance. Lucy's face flashed in Emily's vision, her eyes wide, full of hope and desperation. Emily, help me. With each heartbeat, Emily willed forth that glow inside her, feeling its warmth grow and intertwine with Lucy, their connection pulsing like a lifeline binding them across the dark void. She could hear the creatures closing in, but their shrieks faded against the tide of unity swelling between them. Hold on, Lucy. Emily called out again, fighting the chains of darkness that sought to claim her. As the shadows ripped and writhed, Emily jerked violently, yanking free from the vine's grip. She lunged forward, propelled by an unyielding will that shattered the chilling atmosphere. A surge of adrenaline coursed through her. She could feel the world shifting, colors painting the dark void as if reality itself bent to her fervor. Suddenly, the cloaked figure lunged, its grasp reaching out to snatch her back. No. You cannot escape. But Emily found herself slipping through the shadows, a beam of light cutting through the fog like a sword. The laughter morphed into screams as her glow expanded, suffusing the shadows with clarity and warmth. She could see now, the figures had faces twisted in terror, reflections of those lost to despair. They were like her, once strong, now trapped in fear. No. She screamed, hurling her voice into the void. You don't belong here. The shadows screamed. The laughter morphed into chilling howls that jarred her senses. But Emily pressed on, fueled by a fierce hope. She charged through the darkness, reaching for Lucy, grasping her hand just as the shadows began to tear apart under the weight of their defiance, and then, just as they joined forces, the forest trembled, uprooting reality itself. Light filtered through the suffocating darkness, intertwining with the shadows, blurring the lines of their world. Together. They shouted in unison, their voices ripping through the air, connecting them both to a powerful light that began to break the darkness apart. But as the light surged, a chilling realization dawned on Emily: the forest had teeth, hidden deep within its heart, ready to devour any spark of hope. Then, a sudden force gripped her arm, and the ground quaked beneath their feet as they were pulled into the depths of the still-throbbing darkness. Emily! Lucy screamed, her hold slipping away, their connection threatened just as the last remnant of hope seemed to bloom. Would they succumb to the dark depths, unraveling in the chilling jaws of despair, or could they find a way back from the brink of annihilation? The looming shadows whispered, their hunger palpable, fueling doubts. As Emily's heartbeat synchronized with Lucy's, a deep, resonating voice rumbled from within the forest's core, demanding answers. What price are you willing to pay for the light? The grip on Emily's arm tightened, a vice of shadow dragging her down, closer to an unfathomable darkness. Panic rose within her as she struggled, heart racing like a wild beast trapped in a cage. She could feel Lucy slipping, their bond fraying like a worn rope ready to snap. Fight it, Emily. Lucy's voice pierced the suffocating gloom, a threat of desperation that sent electric shocks through Emily's body. We can break free. With a surge of will, Emily planted her feet, deliberately forceful against the dark tide. Her heartbeat resonated in her ears, a percussion that reminded her of life, of possibility. "Hold on!" she cried, grinding her teeth against the pain of the shadow-esque grasp. The whispers grew louder, an eerie soft symphony that clawed at her mind. Join us. Embraced the darkness. It was seductive, tempting her to give in, to stop fighting. But a flicker of defiance ignited within her, a stubborn ember refusing to be extinguished. She glanced at Lucy, the flicker of her friend's hope lending strength to her resolve. "We can do this. We have to believe." As the shadows writhed, something powerful stirred beneath them. The ground trembled, as if the forest itself was alive, breathing in hunger. Roots and vines burrowed into the earth, reaching out toward them like hungry fingers. "We want to be devoured," Emily shouted, her voice echoing in the abyss. She began to visualize the light, the warmth that had started to sprout between them, flowing from her core and dimly illuminating the void. "Together, Lucy. Remember the bond we share." As she clung to that thought, she felt the connection pulse brighter, a radiant lifeline threading through the chaos. With her every heartbeat, that light swelled, pushing against the shadowy tendrils that sought to engulf them. But the cloaked figure drew nearer, a shifting mass of darkness, its face morphing and flickering. "You think you can resist?" Its voice was a hiss that sent a ripple of chills coursing down Emily's spine. "You're nothing but prey. You will join us forever." "Never!" Emily shouted, summoning every ounce of strength. As if the words were a spell, they wrapped around her like a shield, warding off the creeping despair. She felt Lucy's hand slipping back into her grasp, warm and steady. "Let us go." Lucy's voice was infused with a fierce courage, bolstering Emily's spirit. They were sinking now, their energies swirling together, forming an unbreakable tether. The shadows shrieked in anguish, their dissonance intertwining with the brilliance of Emily and Lucy's light. The dark entities twisted and contorted, their faces revealing the deep-rooted fear that had chained them in the first place. It struck Emily like a revelation. They too were prisoners of this nightmare, lost in their own shadows. But what would it cost? Would stepping into the light doom them or save them all? Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted, a crack of thunder that split the darkness. Together, they pushed against the void, the collision of light and shadow dazzling and terrifying. Just as they felt the warmth engulf them, every heartbeat thudding like an insistent drum, the shadows surged forward one last time. Fangs of darkness lunged, grips that were merciless. "Emily!" Lucy's scream rang out as the night's cold tendrils pulled them apart. Emily's heart plummeted as she felt the connection cooling. "No! Lucy!" she cried. Desperation clawed at her throat, panic suffocating her as she reached out, grasping for her friend. The moment hung fraught with dread as the echo of that chilling voice cut through the chaos once more. "What will you sacrifice for the light? Choose wisely." As the darkness swirled, sealing off her last pathway, the question reverberated through Emily's mind. In that instant, she knew they had to make a choice that could change them forever. Was she willing to let go of everything she knew for the light? The ground trembled again, and the shadows loomed, hungry for an answer. Would she pay the ultimate price? Emily stood at the precipice of despair, her heart racing as the darkness closed in around her. The shadows pressed heavily against her skin, whispering sweet nothings of doubt and fear, threatening to drag her down. But Lucy's face burned brightly in her mind, the warmth of their connection igniting a fire within her. "Together!" she screamed, her voice tearing through the thick silence that threatened to swallow her whole. The brightness within her surged, fueled by the flickering hope that Lucy would always be with her, no matter the price. The cloaked figure towered, hatred radiating from its very core. "This is not your fight," it boomed, staring her down. "Oh, it absolutely is," Emily retorted, standing tall against the suffocating despair. "You don't own us." As she shouted, the light emanating from her flickered and pulsed, intertwining with Lucy's presence. The shadows hissed and recoiled, revealing glimpses of the frightened faces they once claimed. Emily felt their desperation mapping to her own. They were all lost, ensnared in the darkness, each one a prisoner of their own fear. "Lucy!" she called, searching for her friend in the shifting shadows. "If we want to find our way out, we have to believe. Remember the bond of friendship." Lucy shouted back, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. A warmth filled the air, echoing their unity. They were stronger together, with each heartbeat, they pressed forward into the abyss, the light growing brighter and warmer, illuminating their surroundings. The shadows thrashed wildly, shrieks of anger spiraling around them. Emily could feel them slipping away, the darkness finally fracturing. "We are not afraid," they shouted in unison. Then, it happened. The ground shook violently, a powerful force wrapping around their bodies. The cloaked figure lunged forward, but they stood their ground. "You cannot take us," Emily shouted. "We refuse to be your prey." With their fierce resolve and the strength of their love, a blinding explosion of light erupted from within them, radiating through the forest. The shadows screamed, twisting and writhing in agony, retreating deep into the earth's core, trapped and suffocated by the love that had shielded them from doom, and then silence enveloped them. A deafening silence. The shadows were gone, swallowed by the light. "Emily!" Lucy's voice broke through, soft and trembling. "Lucy, I'm right here." Relief surged through Emily as she clutched her friend's hand. In that moment, the world around them shifted. The trees seemed less oppressing, the air lightened, free from the weight of despair. The sun began to rise above the horizon, sending golden rays spilling down through the leaves, washing over them in warmth. They stumbled forward, trailing each other through the forest, breathless yet alive. It all seemed surreal, a bizarre dream that had come to an end. The woods, once a realm of terror, now seemed almost tranquil, filled with the soft sounds of morning. A new beginning. As they emerged from the shadows, the laughter faded completely, replaced by the clear calls of birds chirping. The forest was no longer twisted and dark, but vibrant and full of life. Each breath felt like a rebirth. But shadows lingered, remnants of what had transpired. Lucy and Emily knew this was a fight won, not finished. There would always be echoes of the dark in this world, but they learned a lesson: the power of love and unity could prevail over even the deepest fears. With time, they would be okay. As the dawn broke higher above the trees, Lucy turned, her voice steady. "We need to tell everyone, to make sure they understand." "Yeah," Emily replied, squeezing her friend's hand. "And together, we'll keep them safe." They headed back, determined to share their story, aware of the shadows lurking in dark corners but carrying a light that could defeat them. This was just the beginning. Now listen closely. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next collection of spine-tingling stories. This is the moment to show your support and connect with a community that thrives on chilling tales. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure our tales continue. This story needs your reaction, so flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about what just happened. And for the love of all things eerie, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion with you. Their journey is far from over, and you could help them uncover even more hidden truths. Time is running out. Let us gather all the brave souls together.